Groovy, isn't it? You guys love that little opener, don't you? I liked it. I remember when I picked it, I was all like the swirly glue. It just felt very appropriate. Anywho, now you've gotten past the opener of this video, and now you're in the show. Hi. You are on Social Glue powered by Restream. I am your host, Rachel Moore. Happy to be with you here for, wait for it, everybody. It is the last week of 2020. Yes! Go ahead. You can yell where you're sitting. You're probably at home anyway, and nobody's around. And even if they are, so what? Give a hoot and holler for it, man. It is done. We are just about there. And I'm really happy you're all choosing to join us here, watching live or the replay. Social Glue powered by Restream, the final episode of 2020. Thank goodness we all made it. But I really appreciate you guys all watching. And there is no better time or place to get adhesive. Social glue is about being adhesive and adhering to one another. So that is what the whole point of this show is. We're meant to bring things, people, concepts, projects together, and you're here with us to do that too. So happy to see you all today. Thanks for joining. Real quick, this show is brought to you by Restream.io or Restream. It's one of, probably the only, in my opinion, live streaming platform, and you can go live on up to 30 platforms. I'm going live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, and of course, Twitter today, because it was really relevant considering our guest, our Social Glue shout out guest. So you can join any of those streams. It's also on my website, really.social, and you're welcome to join it there too. But it's all powered by Restream, and that's why you're watching today. But what I wanted to ask you guys, how are you planning on kissing 2020 goodbye, maybe kicking it, shoving it out the door, however you plan to go about that? How are you bidding farewell to this very tumultuous year? And then how are you planning to bring in the new year, 2021? Leave it in the comments and let us know how you're planning to celebrate. I got to tell you, I'm a little torn. I think 2020 was really hard. I'm really looking forward to leaving it behind. However, I don't know that I'm in a celebratory mood. I'll just be really honest. I mean, there's many aspects to it. I'm just kind of like, there's a lot to think about, a lot to kind of ponder about the good things that came out of 2020, which is great. But there was a lot that it took to get us to those points. And so it's just been a very conflicting year. Let's say that at the very minimum. So how are you planning to segue from one year to the next? And I would love to hear that in the comments and let us know, because like I said, I'm a little mixed about it. Maybe I'll get some ideas from you. We can share those with the audience. So next up, let's talk about the Social Glue news. Now this week, I did do some searching for like, okay, what's new in social, any new apps or features, things like that. But honestly, the thing that jumped out at me was the Guinness records that were created by social media this year. Some milestones achieved, different things like that. So I want to go through those real quick and just kind of give a little brief walk down 2020 on what all happened in the world of social as it relates to records being made. First up, Rupert Grint. Now, if you don't know that name, you probably need to go revisit the Harry Potter movies. Rupert Grint is the guy who played Ron Weasley, who is Harry Potter's best friend throughout all the books and the movies. That actor joined Instagram, and his first post was a picture of him with his baby, and he achieved 1 million Instagram followers, the fastest that anyone else has. He beat Sir David Attenborough for how quickly he achieved 1 million followers. Now, granted, some of you might be thinking, oh, I'm just going to run to Instagram and post a picture of my baby. It might make a little bit of a difference if you're a famous actor, just might, especially for the Harry Potter series. He's got that instant recognizability, and of course, it's Ron Weasley having a kid. So he achieved that milestone with fastest growth to 1 million Instagram followers. All easy for me to say. Congratulations, Rupert Grint, for achieving such a big milestone that many of us probably cannot hope to achieve. So that was pretty cool. Next up, this one, again, I mentioned a tumultuous year. A lot of hard things happened that, we have to recognize. I think this one hit hard too. The most liked tweet. And when we say liked, basically that's the only way you can acknowledge a tweet without retweeting or resharing. And a lot of that happened too. But the tweet that got the most acknowledgement through the like function this year on Twitter was the announcement that Chadwick Boseman, who played the Black Panther in the Marvel Avengers movies, had passed away. He also played in many other projects too. I think the most remarkable thing about this, and again, I'd love to hear what some of you think as well, was the fact that many of us didn't realize he was battling cancer. And much of that through the roles he was playing, not just in the Avengers movies, but the other projects he was working on. And we never would have known, we couldn't see it. And now you can look back, you're like, I don't even know how he did that. But phenomenal actor and a huge loss, very big time. And I think it was hard for me to see a lot of kids where they'd have all their action figures. If you might have seen this on your social feeds, where they had the Black Panther and then had their other Avenger dolls kind of in salute around him. It was like, so big time loss. Getting a little bit of a feeling here too about it, but that was that reflects really well on kind of where we were this year as far as some of those milestones that we've seen. Switching gears a little bit, a little more of a frivolous achievement here, but the first person to achieve 100 million TikTok followers was Charli D'Amelio, and she's a TikTok creator. I've seen a couple of her things. I don't think I follow her. I think she does a lot of lip syncing and dance videos, but she achieved 100 million followers on TikTok. TikTok had a huge growth year. Oh my goodness. Even people who are thinking, oh no, they're going to get banned in the US, they have been banned in other countries like India. TikTok still had tons of people flocking, even if it was just to watch and not create. I know I'm one of those people. I just don't feel like I verse myself well in the TikTok creation process, but it was really great. Man, it was kind of a release to be able to see people get really creative, especially during pandemic seasons, which we've had all year, where, man, they were just creating in their own home with the people they were with, and it got really cool. But congrats to Charli D'Amelio for achieving her 100 million TikTok followers. Dang, that's a lot. Also, for those of you who may not be familiar with BTS, they had achieved the milestone of the most viewed YouTube video in 24 hours. All you got to do is go look up BTS on YouTube and you'll instantly see what we're talking about. BTS also made some waves too on other social apps and platforms. They have a lot of stands out there, people who are willing to come in and flock to social on their behalf. Obviously, that worked on their YouTube videos too. And so they really got that and earned that well, the most viewed YouTube video within 24 hours. May we all have that kind of luck with our YouTube videos, though I'm not a performing artist, so I'm probably gonna have to work a little bit harder at it. And lastly, as a parent, I'm glad that my kids are of a certain age where maybe this didn't get as much sway as it would have for younger kids. The most viewed video on YouTube this year was Baby Shark. And if any of you are starting to sing that to yourself, I'm not going to do it. I refuse. But go ahead and look it up on YouTube. The Baby Shark video, you'll see it is the most viewed video on YouTube this year. And it kind of, I just will warn you ahead of time, if you haven't heard the song and you go listen to it, it's going to be in your head all day. That is a heck of an earworm. So take that warning as you will before you head on that way. But that is another milestone for the book. So those are the Guinness World Records for social in 2020. Again, we're some pretty remarkable things there where, we're able to kind of look back and say, oh, that's really interesting. And I would say too, and this kind of gets into what we're going to talk about with our Social Glue shout out guest this week. For those of you who have your own brand, maybe you are for your personal brand on social media, trying to create content, or maybe you're running social or content marketing for a brand, and you're wondering, how do I achieve those kind of stats? Obviously, like we said, a lot of things are at play with the particular ways that these particular messages and tweets and Instagram posts and content got the views that they did and the followers that they did. The important thing to remember is you have to stick with what's relevant to your brand. I mentioned with Rupert Grint, you putting up a picture of you holding a newborn, I'm sure will get a lot of likes, but not necessarily going to get all the followers that Rupert Grint did because he's a celebrity. So things to think about, and we are going to touch base on that in a little bit as we welcome this week's Social Glue guest. And I am going to welcome him now. Now, I am really excited about this guest because I don't believe I really was aware of him until I would say the latter half of 2020. I I had been delving more and more into Twitter. And one thing that was really cool about this year, and I'm sure you all can feel it too, is we did see a whole lot more community. And a lot of that felt like cathartic to be able to try to find those communities and say, I need to seek out more people. I can't go out and about necessarily and find them. They're on digital. And if I'm on digital, I can go find them too. So I ran into our guest on Twitter, which again it's still today one of my favorite, it's probably my favorite social app to use. But what struck me about this individual was he was someone that was really trying to build community, realizing the mediums that we were restricted to, and foster that kind of connection. And so he was a natural, someone I wanted to have on this show, especially as we're coming out of a year where community was everything. So without further ado, I'm really pleased to welcome today's guest, Anthony Yepez from Twitter and the SMM-Community for Slack. Anthony, welcome to Social Glue powered by Restream.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's awesome to have you on. And I know it's the last week of 2020 and either people are really trying to crank out work or take time off and things like that. But I'm so pleased you're able to join me regardless. And Anthony, I would love to have you be able to tell us a little bit more about yourself real quick. Can you just give us an introduction of who you are, what you're about, and what you're into and what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. So based out of New York City, for the past 4 years, I've been director of social media for Spartan Race, a global obstacle course racing brand and lifestyle fitness company. Prior to that, I was at a marketing agency in New York City, working with major brands, athletes, celebrities, a lot of influencer marketing and event activation. Background in music and sports, and just always had a passion for social media. I'm very active and social person. So, going into social was kind of a natural progression for me, and it's been one heck of a ride, and just always looking for ways to connect with people, and obviously with social media, that's the greatest opportunity that it gives us. And professionally, it's been all about just connecting brands with their audience and just really showcasing the value of what they bring to the world.
I couldn't agree more. And it's one thing I love about this show and having people on with the Social Glue shout out. And I should say too, I love having guests on who do the work. Right. I think we both are privy to seeing big names on social media in the industry where they've written books, they always are speaking on the big stages, and of course now on the big Zooms and the big conferences we're doing virtually. But I always go back to the people who do the work themselves and are in it day to day. And we kind of, if I may say, sometimes the unsung heroes of social, you're the ones who are like on the cutting edge of whatever's happening in social just about every day. How do you personally stay on that cutting edge of making sure I know what's a new feature in Facebook ads, or I know what this new algorithm change to YouTube is? How do you make sure that you're in touch with what's new and usable in social?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to kind of like the social strategy I put forward for brands, but it's always listening, and being engaged with your audience, and in this case being engaged with the industry, and making contacts within the social networks themselves, making sure you have a rep that you can work with, or you're listening to podcasts, or you're subscribing to newsletters, whether it's directly from the social platform or other professionals within the space. But a lot of it has to do with consuming content and just making sure you're always staying up to date and testing on your side before you bring it to your brand or your company. But really, I think the large focal point is just being an active user on social, just like, the people that you're trying to talk to, and consuming great content.
And I think that's hard for some of us who are doing that work. I know I've seen some of the Twitter conversations that people have where it's like, people might ask, say, well, if you do, social for a brand, why aren't you doing your own? And it's like, because I'm doing social for a brand. I use up all that creativity and stuff for that. And I will say too, you've really been someone who's helped me this year, because I've very much gotten in that rut where I'm like, I just mentally don't have the energy to go be creative or anything. But you've created some communities, you know, and some connections with our fellow social media marketers that I gotta say, you know, it's helped me get through the year, frankly. It's been something that I think I talked to somebody today. It got me out of the doom scrolling, and I was able to actually go say yes, but I just want to interact with some people who get what I do. I would love for you. Can you talk a little bit about the social media marketing community you helped to bring together, not only on Twitter but also in a Slack community?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just happened very organically. You know, I was in the middle of a tough place in my life professionally where I did not know what I wanted to do next. And, you know, I had a very small circle that I trusted, you know, with, you know, asking for advice and getting their feedback on things. But I also wanted to kind of, you know, step outside of my circle a little bit and see, you know, are there other people that have a similar story and similar frustrations, you know, especially with this year with, you know, COVID and the lockdown and just so many different things happening. So I took to Twitter, and, you know, Twitter was something I've been a part of for, you know, since 2009, but never really actively used it until this year. And then, you know, I came across marketing Twitter, and I came across, you know, the SMM community on Twitter. And I said to myself, wow, there's tons of people that have similar experiences, that have a lot to say. They have great valuable input. And I could have conversations with these people, and, you know, I can talk normally and really get great, you know, feedback from them. And I would say from, you know, March or April until this day, it's been nonstop great conversations with people from around the world where we all share, you know, the similar interest, which is, you know, being social media professionals and doing a great job for our clients and the people that hire us. But, you know, I also looked at it like, well, there's also a lot of other people on social, and there's a lot of other communities. So maybe I'm not reaching everyone that I possibly can. So what would be the best way? I remember tweeting out, hey, like, would you guys be open to sharing each other's emails and doing like an email list or finding a way to just directly connect? Then I was like, wait, Slack, perfect. Let's do something on Slack. Let's create a community. And I put out the link, not expecting much return. And quickly, you know, I think we had 200 people that day, and, you know, maybe a couple hundred now at this point. And we had our first Zoom, you know, fireside chat last week with over 65 people. And it's just been great. It's been very organic, like I said. And it's been really a safe place for people just to get advice, get some guidance, and talk very openly about what they're dealing with in their career at their current job. And, you know, there's that trust that, you know, nothing will get out of there. And it's a place where you can really seek the answers that you're looking for without, you know, any judgment whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember you tweeting that out, and just like, hey, would that be of interest? And I was like, oh my God, yes. And it's always interesting to me too to see, you know, especially social media marketers, we're always like, okay, which is the best app? What kind of group? Do we do a Facebook group? Do we do a LinkedIn group? You know, but I love that you picked Slack, because I think many of us watching right now can relate to how that almost translates so perfectly into things we're already using for the work we do,
Right,
whether
yeah.
it might be Teams or Slack or things like that. But I have to say too, being a member in that Slack community, and for anyone watching, we'll make sure the links are in the post, in the comments and or in the description, so you can join if you're a social media marketer. But it's great how you created channels that are for, hey, this is dope content, you guys should all check it out. You know, if you missed it, this is really cool. Or tips and advice, or even job opportunities, which are really great.
Right.
And so I love that you've and additional ones too. There's really cool ways that it intros people when they join. And it's nice because you've just created this extra place where it's not public, where if we all were interacting, and we do interact on Twitter, that is all public. But instead it is that very, you know, it's a finite community where you can just be yourself, like you said. And I want to ask you too, what were your takeaways? I know you did, I wasn't able to join because I think I was doing the show. But what were your takeaways from doing that huge Zoom that you did with everybody from that community?
Well, my takeaways were that, you know, again, what I did know already kind of, but that we definitely all share a lot of the same kind of roadblocks and a lot of the same, you know, conflicts. at our respective organizations, and, we're all seeking, advice, and we all want to just really understand, like, in a very simple way, like, hey, I'm not crazy, right? Like this happens to everybody else. And so a lot of that was the case. And also just one of my other biggest takeaways is just seeing how knowledgeable a lot of people are that are professionals within social media, like just how much knowledge they possess, and how much we're all really trying to gain that respect, whether it's at our own organization or, on social media in general. And right now feel like maybe we're not getting that. So, a lot of conversations that we had during that Zoom call was just, hey, how do we continue to grow the awareness about social media professionals, and how do we climb the ladder within our marketing org? What does that climb look like? Is CMO that next step, or is there a new position that needs to be had? Or are we okay with staying at the, let's say, director or VP of social media, but really lean on leadership to respect the value that social media brings to the marketing organization?
Yeah. And again, all useful stuff. It's almost like you're having a career coaching or counseling in there too, just among yourselves. And basically, and so many great ways to compare notes. I mean, for those of us who have been social media marketers for a while, I mean, I still remember when that was a bullet on a receptionist or admin assistants, you'll manage our social channels. And now it is literally, if not a full-blown role for one person, it might be a whole team for some brands. But and you're bringing up some stuff, which I do want to get into, because this is an opportunity where I think we can really learn from your expertise too, because I know you had shared offline that a lot of what you do is social content strategy, KPIs and goals that people should have, and things like that. So let's segue into the question portion of today. So again, we're going to do the social media question. I will share the screen, and let's see if I can get it orientated correctly for us to be on here. Okay, cool. And actually, I don't want to do that. There we go. So this is our social glue question. For any of you who want to submit a question, we take audience questions and we can ask them of our guests, and you can get it answered right here live on air, which is fun. You can submit that at really.social/socialglue. But today's question, and again, it's a bit open-ended, but you kind of get these based on how people would actually ask them. Why does my brand need a social media strategy? Because I'm sure most people are thinking, oh, I just need to post to Facebook 3 times a week and I'm good, right? So why do we need a strategy, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, this question is kind of like the golden question, that we see a lot. And I think there's a lot of different ways to answer it. But what I would say is that your business has goals. You have benchmarks that you want to hit. You have an objective and a purpose. And with social media being, kind of the forefront and the first place that people go to nowadays, you want to make sure that what you have being presented and displayed on your social media ties back to the business goals that you set and the business strategy that you set from the top level down. A lot of times people have a disconnection between their social media and maybe what's on their website, or, what was in their business plan, or maybe what's discussed during, C-suite, type conversations. And having a very clear strategy on social is always tied back to the business. It should be, I mean, in my opinion. And then from there, that social strategy should be built around the audience that you're trying to target and that you're trying to appeal to, and really understanding that audience and how they operate and how they behave across all social media channels, where the most attention is that you'll have for your brand in those particular channels, and then the type of content that's going to be hyper, valuable to them. And that's really going to resonate, and there's a big difference between, what you feel your brand should put out versus what your audience truly wants, and what's going to help them, consider your brand and help them move them through the marketing funnel and potentially become a customer one way or another. So not having that social media strategy kind of puts you at a disadvantage, where maybe you're throwing things against the wall to see if maybe it sticks. And, like you mentioned earlier, there's companies who spend, a good amount of resources on social media teams. And if you're going to invest, as you should, in a social media team, you want to make sure that, they're working, productively. And it's all towards, building the business and bringing more people, into your funnel and really showcasing the why of your brand, through great engaging content. I can go on for hours about this, but in a nutshell, that's really why.
Well, and for anyone watching, if you want to get a little more guidance, and remember, I always like to quote from Heath Ledger's performance with the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises, where he's like, if you're good at something, never do it for free. This kind of knowledge, like if you need someone to help build a social media strategy, that's worth stuff, and it is more than just, oh, we're going to post to Facebook 3 times a day. Yeah. Or again, I'll use the example of Rupert Grint. You can't just put someone holding a newborn up on your Instagram and yay, that may have zero to do with what your business goals are. And so you're totally speaking truth right there on all the levels about the social media strategy aspects we need to pay attention to. And Anthony, thank you so much for joining today. I put in here too how people can follow you at Anthony Yepez. I follow you on Twitter, but you're also right here on LinkedIn, and I'm sure elsewhere, but that's a great place to start. But your expertise and knowledge, and not just about social media strategy, but also just about creating the very communities that we need so badly from this year and going into 2021 have been amazing to share. I really appreciate you being on Social Glue, powered by Restream today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you. And have a great day and a happy new year. Let's hope it is happy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, my favorite aspect of the show is I love talking to people who work in this every day, and they should be recognized for what they know. So it was really great having him on the show today. So we are at the final portion of the show, which again is one of my favorites. Shoot, I just like this whole show. Okay. I love that last week our guest, Doug, he came with his own haiku, and we're about to share the social haiku for the day and for this week. And it's submitted by Kiki Schirr, and she gave it up on Twitter. And so I loved it so much. She actually gave me 3 haikus, which are kind of connected. So I'm just going to share the one that I think is a bit more appropriate for today. Her haiku for this week: but these days, even your oldest fam has Facebook, and Zoom keeps you close. Truer words were never spoken, but they were spoken by Kiki Schirr. Follow her on Twitter. Thank you, Kiki, for that awesome haiku. Very deep. That's one thing I love about those haikus, you guys. They can get deep. They can be silly. They're easy to compose. All you got to do is do the syllable counts, and you don't even need to rhyme. Or you could be like Kiki, who was an overachiever, which I love, that she gave me 3 different haikus. You can go see them on her Twitter feed. But I really appreciate her social haiku. And again, any of you can submit a social haiku if you want, or any way that you want to get to where you can submit, either as a question you want to have answered on the show, a haiku you'd like to be read out on the show, or if you want to be like Anthony, be our Social Glue shout out guest and share what you know, we'd be happy to have you on. You can go find all of that at really.social/socialglue, or just watch the show there too. See, I'm rhyming, and it's not even haikus, but we are on every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on my LinkedIn feed or my YouTube channel. And this week, we're also on my Twitter feed because it made sense. We were talking to a big gatherer of people who I wanted really to feature because he's really helped to make community. And that brings me to our first guest for 2020. I'm so excited. See, I love giving these individuals the shout out. But our guest for next Wednesday is going to be, let's see if I can get this correctly, Christina Garnett she is from Twitter. She's a NASA social alum. She has been seen in articles and giving her her knowledge and expertise on social media marketing on Adweek, on the Next Web. I love all of these. These are the sites that I go to for any new stuff about social. She's going to be our guest next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, talking about someone bringing community together. One reason I love Christina, and she did it just today too, actually yesterday, she will tweet things out that are really just solely for the purpose of bringing people into the spotlight. Exactly what I like to do on this show. Her latest tweet is about saying, hey, if you know you can speak on a topic and would like to be a speaker, tweet in this thread what you should be talking about. And the great part is Christina has such a great following and is prolific on Twitter. She's able to get the eyeballs. I mean, people, I think she did a tweet in November, I want to say, maybe even early December, where she said, hey, if you're looking to get over that 1,000 person Twitter follower mark, put your tweet in here, and tons of people got over 1,000 followers on Twitter, which can make a big difference for them. And so that's one reason a few reasons rather, that I just recounted. I really love Christina. It's also why I loved having Anthony on the show today. These are people who are here doing the hard work, but also really trying to foster connection and bring others to the top. I love it. So Christina will be our guest next Wednesday, January 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on LinkedIn and YouTube. And who knows, maybe I'll go on Twitter again next week because, well, it makes sense. I want to thank you all for watching Social Glue today. And every Wednesday. We'll be here again starting the new year 2021. Can't wait to see what happens then. But I know you all are hanging out, hanging in. Shoot, let's just leave this year behind us, okay? As we sign off today, it's a very good sign off. It's like, bye. And we're glad that that we are leaving this year behind us. And who knows, maybe 2021 will just be that much more fantastic. Whether it is or not, we're going to be here being adhesive with social media, bringing us all together. You have been watching Social Glue powered by Restream, and I really appreciate you everyone for hanging in with us as we launch the show this month, and we'll keep going for 2021. Have a great rest of your year, everyone.